What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today, we're going to be reacting to Bleacher Report's young NBA players 25 and under who already need a trade. So it's just got a list of teams, a couple teams here that we're going to go over, discuss, and everything like that, and then go over their depth chart and all that. So if you do enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on whether you agree with these players needing to be traded or not. So with that being said, let's get right on into this. Now, this report was released literally today, July 28th, 2024. So I saw this. I wanted to react to it. I did have some other content that was in line, but I thought that this would be a good idea to push this out right now. Shout out, before we get into this, shout out to the United States for beating Serbia. It was a blowout win. Didn't think it needed to deserve a full video, but, you know, this one right here, this article will be interesting. I got some interesting takes here. So we'll just take a look at the first guy, Anthony Simons, a guard for Portland. Now, of course, a lot of this just has to do with the fact that they got Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons, and they have Scoot Henderson. Now, if Anthony is not part of the future, now he's still super young. Team-friendly contract, 2-year, $53.6 million deal. He averaged a career-high 22.6, 3 and 5 last year. Super high scorer. Now, does he fit the timeline of the Portland Trailblazers? And the biggest thing is, if they don't choose to trade him, let's pull up their depth chart right here. If they don't choose to trade him, do they really believe fully in both Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe being the future of this team? I think that they definitely look at Shaedon Sharpe as a legit player who can play in this league and everything. A big question is, what can you get for Anthony Simons? Is he worth the haul, willing to give up? Where would he fit? That would be a lot of question marks too. Like, you know, who could use somebody like him? He's a bit of a smaller guard. You know, not quite got the playmaking of a point guard, but too small to kind of be a shooting guard. He's kind of an in-betweener. So, and yeah, he can get his own shot. He's a bucket. He kind of reminds me of like a Jordan Clarkson, who could eventually develop to be like a sixth man. Even like a Malik Monk-esque sixth man coming off the bench would be perfect role for him on a winning situation. Now, obviously, with the Trailblazers, they're not in that winning situation right now. They're looking to just get value. So the thing is, you go and you talk to teams that have bigger contracts that you can absorb for a future first-round pick or two. So, you know, with that, there isn't a specific team listed as to where they could go. But Anthony, the problem would be, you know, I would say maybe somewhere like Charlotte, because Charlotte has a taller point guard in LaMelo Ball. And yes, defense would be an issue over there, but you have bucket getters in LaMelo, Anthony, Brandon Miller. Like, that's a solid lineup already right there with those three. Is it championship contending? No, but depending on what you give up for somebody like Simons, it really could make all the difference. If it's not too much, I'd say take a risk on it, you know, because he averaged 22 points a game. Next up right here, it is Jonathan Kaminga. This should not be a shocker to anybody. I totally agree with this. I think that Jonathan Kaminga should be on the move because of his value. I don't think the Warriors use him right at all. I think that he kind of needs the keys to go. And there were times where Steve Kerr wasn't letting him go and flourish, and he was getting, you know, not playing minutes and everything like that because Steve Kerr was just choosing not to play him. And then Kaminga had to basically request a trade and be like, hey, I want to play. And then Steve Kerr finally decided to play him. And then there was a stretch where he was averaging like 25 a game. I think he's perfect to go to a new team. And like, Utah should be someone jumping at him. I've been saying that video after video after video. Utah should be jumping after a guy like that. He would fit really well. I think a lot of teams could use somebody like him. I could see someone like Sacramento using a power forward like Kaminga. You know, there's a lot of organizations I think that could use him. You know, he would fit quite well with Utah in the fact that he can just take the keys and go. There's not too much pressure on winning now or anything like that. He can just go and just play basketball. But yes, I think the perfect fit, especially for the Warriors' return, of course, being Lauri Markkanen. Will that deal get done? Brian Windhorst is saying that there's stuff in the works for Lauri, or he says behind-the-scenes trades that are going down, but we don't know quite yet. But yeah, Jonathan Kaminga should be looking to get on the move. They don't list it, but another guy would be Moses Moody, I think, of course. His value is not going to be as high as Kaminga's, but still worth a flyer, in my opinion. As a guy that was once a top 10 pick in the draft, I think he's worth, I believe he was a top 10 pick. I think Kaminga was 7, and then he was 10 in the same draft class. So I think you take a flyer on him. The next player that we're going to talk about here is Nicholas Claxton. Now, of course, we all know that he re-signed with the Nets, 4-year, $97 million deal, and he can't be traded until December 15th because of this. Now, is he part of the Brooklyn Nets long-term plan? I don't think so. I think that they're going to let him just kind of ball out until closer to the trade deadline and then move him to a team maybe like the Pelicans who need a center, somebody like that could kind of like overpay a little bit, give up a guy like Brandon Ingram if he hasn't been traded quite yet. So then you go and you might be able to dish off one of your other poor contracts here. We all know they've got Ben Simmons. So if they can find a third team that's willing to take on someone like Ben Simmons' contract, that would be ideal for them. Get him off the books and all that. Just get rid of that guy because he's not playing. I feel bad for his whole situation, of course, because at one time he was an all-NBA caliber defender and playmaker. But now it just seems like, one, the back issue, of course, is a big problem. And two, ever since the whole Philly situation where fans just absolutely brutalize this guy, he hasn't been the same. So Nicholas Claxton, though, would be a good fit for, I think Memphis is a good spot for him. I think the Pelicans are a good spot for him. Someone that needs a center. I could even see someone like New York, the Knicks, trying to make a move for him. Now, they just got Mikal Bridges. They give up quite the haul for him, so I don't think they have the assets to go get him. But the Pelicans and the Grizzlies, watch out for those guys, especially with the Grizzlies drafting Zach Edey. And then the Pelicans did draft a center late in the first, but they have the asset, of course, of Brandon Ingram. So the next guy up here is Jaden Ivy. Now, this one is kind of an interesting one because you pull up their depth chart. I don't really know if you look to trade him right now. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this one specifically. I think that you ride it out one more year and see, of course, how he does. Rookie seasons are never always perfect. That second year, they tend to be better, and it gives you a lot more information as to what kind of player this guy can turn out to be. So I think you kind of let it ride. You've got the vets there, Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., to kind of help mentor Jaden Ivy and these other younger guys, whether it's going to be Marcus Saucer or Jaden Ivy in the future taking over that starting spot. We don't know. But at least having that backup, there as another option, and then having those vets too to kind of handle the gap there, the bridge the gap. Now, of course, Ivy, you got to let him ball to start off the season at least, and hopefully get a few games where you can just he just goes crazy, and then if you really don't see him being the piece, his trade value would be at its highest point if he has really good games to start off the season. But I do see the point, and he's not necessarily a three-point shooter, so far at least. And with Cade Cunningham and Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren, there's not a whole lot of spacing there. So do you really want another, attacking the basket kind of guard? Would you want to go get a shooter, i.e. Tyler Hero from the Miami Heat, and go absorb a contract like that? And then Jaden Ivey seems like a Miami Heat kind of culture guy. Would be perfect over there, in my opinion at least. He looks like that workhorse kind of player that's willing to get better in all sorts of ways and willing to do what he needs to do in order to be successful. So, and it would be a more winning situation for him over in Miami versus in Detroit. Next up, and last but not least, we definitely have to talk about the Houston Rockets. Alperen Sengun or Jalen Green. In my opinion, you do not trade Sengun right now. You got a solid center. Baby Jokic is the nickname. Now, of course, I know there was a bit of a stretch where he was injured. He wasn't playing. And they were playing very well without him. Now, you have Steven Adams, who's coming back from injury. You have Jock Landale, who's playing really well for Australia over in the Olympics right now. You've got a lot of depth everywhere else. Jalen Green, of course, is the odd man out. I don't think he fits this roster at all. He's the kind of guy, again, kind of fits that Anthony Simons mold that I was just talking about. Malik Monk, J.R. Smith, Jordan Clarkson-esque, where he needs to come off the bench. You need to bring him off the bench, and then he can just flourish with the second unit. I don't really see him as a full-blown starter at the moment. He's too inefficient for, he either looks fantastic or he doesn't look good enough. So I think you go on and you just move either Amen Thompson or Reed Shepherd to the starting lineup, have Cam Whitmore as that backup guy, and then you trade away Jalen Green for a solid piece. Now, of course, some of these teams could be looking to talk to one another because, like, Alperen Sengun would be somebody that I would be interested in building a squad around if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, for example. If you can trade, Nicholas Claxton for a package surrounded around Sengun, and you guys can make some sort of deal work there, and maybe you even snag Jalen Green in that deal too, I would like to see something like that happen. Or you look at, Golden State with Jonathan Kaminga. They always kind of need a center over there. I mean, I don't think Jonathan Kaminga would necessarily fit the timeline of the Rockets, but the Warriors could definitely use a center. Trayce Jackson-Davis got bodied trying to play for Team USA Select, and he didn't look too good for me this last season with the Warriors. I think that they're clearly looking to upgrade that. I mean, obviously looking to trade Lauri Markkanen, or for Lauri Markkanen. You're going to end up having to bring Trayce Jackson-Davis off the bench, as he just needs more time to kind of put on muscle, develop, and just develop some defensive skill over there. But Houston is always an interesting one because I've talked about this a few times now. Jalen Green. I wish Cam Whitmore was on this list also. Cam is the kind of guy I wish he would. He's kind of in the same boat as Jonathan Kaminga, where you could send him off and he could flourish on a new squad. He could flourish. He would be perfect with Utah, with the Indiana Pacers, with the a lot of other teams. With the Hornets would be a great example. I think a lot of teams could use him. I love his game so far, and even in Summer League, he played phenomenally. So overall, there's definitely a handful of guys here that could be on the trading block. I think that some are definitely sticking around. So if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on the road to 12,000 subscribers. And guys, with that being said, it's been another Heart Over Height episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.